Hey everybody, this is Alex with UCCX.net. What I'm going to show you today is my setup for my CCIE Voice Lab, which I successfully passed early in January of 2010. Briefly show you all the hardware and how everything's linked together, and then we can talk about a little bit of the things that I experienced going through the process. And I'm going to have a little bit lengthy of a blog update listing out all the hardware and the specs and everything like that. So what I want to show you first is my HP DL380 Generation 6. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's got two SATA 150 gig hard drives that are basically just running VMware ESX4i, or ESXi 4.0 rather. This is actually what I use to house all of my VM images. I actually virtualized everything in the NFR kit that came from Cisco for the 7.0 software. I have the publisher, subscriber, call manager servers in there. Also have Unity connection, Contact Center Express 7.0, CUPS 7.0, and I also have a Windows XP image which has all of my UC apps, like the, for example, for the call center we have the agent software, supervisor software, historical reports, all that good stuff. We have the CUPS client. That also houses all my secure CRT profiles to connect to all the equipment for all of the sites. And I also have an Active Directory box on here, so all said and done it's about 10 VM images that are running on this machine. Connected into this is actually the headquarters site. Headquarters site consisted of 3 phones. You can go out to the blueprint on Cisco.com and you can see these, but I have a 7960. I wanted to be able to simulate SIP dial rules, which are only needed on this version of phone. I have a 7962, and then I finally have a 7965 color IP phone. And one of the things that I wanted to do is to be able to simulate a lot of different things. So what I have is a 3550 PoE switch here, and I also have a 2801 ISR router. And inside this router I have a 4-port FXS card. This is when I was studying for the version 2 of the lab that I actually did not pass. And I have a VWIC and a WIC card in here, WIC version 2, 1DSU version 2 to simulate frame relay. And then I have my VWIC card over here, which is simulating my PRI circuit coming in. And then moving over, this is actually the brains of everything. I have a iOmega, which is an EMC based company product. It's a 4 terabyte NAS, which actually connects into my ESX server that has all of my VM images on it. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I actually have about 40% of it full right now as far as space goes. So one of the things with VMware is that it actually requires a lot of space for the images, and then I was also doing rollbacks and snapshots, which let me configure everything in a UC environment, and then when I'm done configuring I can roll it back to a version state. That way I don't have to constantly rebuild my images. This is just a real brief outline of my network environment, which I can't show you. And I have 2 PSTN phones here which are actually running in the cloud, which can simulate 411, a local number to me here. And then I also have all these numbers programmed in on the outside world that I can make phone calls to and from each site. And moving on along, I'll show you kind of the branch 1 router. This branch is actually pretty cool. I've got a 7965 color IP phone here and a 7941 in the back that I can simulate all of my calls in and out of the site. Same setup here. I have a VWIC and a WIC card that are simulating frame relay and PRI. And then I also have a 4-port HWIC card, which is actually an ether switch module that I have inserted into the router, which is actually like an integrated switch. And then my third site is kind of neat. I have another switch here, which I can actually simulate all of the differences in QoS. The 3550 QoS model is a little different than 3560 and 3750, so I've got this guy here so I can simulate the different QoS. Same scenario here. What I have VWIC and a WIC card, which can simulate the PRI and the frame relay circuit. And I also have a network module so I can simulate all my Q or Cisco Unity Express functionality. Probably the hardest part of everything for me building the lab out was to be able to configure and understand really how to make a cloud work. And what this in the middle is doing that I haven't shown you guys yet. The top router here is actually terminating all 3 of my PRIs and this router is actually playing the part of a Verizon or a Paytech, or basically a LEC. And I've got this actually connected into a cloud call manager, which is actually what is simulating all the numbers that are on this phone and all the numbers that are on this phone. So it's basically back-to-back call managers, if you can imagine that in your head. One call manager that I control as a customer. Calls go into this router here, which is a call manager that is running H323, that actually plays the part of Verizon. I have a cloud switch here, which is a 3550 PoE that actually terminates all my connections. This also has ILO capability to all my servers, and it also has connectivity to all my routers and switches as a backbone network. So I can essentially touch every piece of equipment if I connect into the frame, or if I connect into the cloud, rather than me having to actually plug into each individual site. Down at the bottom, you can't really see it underneath all these wires. I've actually got a 3750 router down here, which is actually running or simulating all of my frame relay connections. This is actually a frame relay switch, and that was actually one of the most difficult pieces, was to actually learn how to build a frame relay switch. And you're actually acting as a PRI. I'm sorry, as a frame relay provider. What I'm going to attempt to do is to kind of break out the config for that, so if any of you guys have to do this at home, you've got it. But that's my lab setup. It worked very well for me. I'm going to publish a big blog article on how I studied, but one of the things that I did was I actually built this out because I didn't like the idea of having to rent online time and being constrained to 8-hour blocks. So hope you enjoyed this, and look for more from me to come. Thanks.